As English language teachers, one challenge that we face is grappling with this entire notion of what differentiated instruction really means and how exactly does that manifest, especially in a large classroom of 40 to 41, 42 students. So we invite you today to join us, both Gladys and myself, as we discuss how exactly do we plan for and execute a differentiated English lesson. Covering texts that require students to respond and through that response make a certain recommendation. So in line with that, perhaps we could start off with maybe determining a language area of focus. Would writing be a good start for this?
Okay, so for Sec 1, we'll be covering our letter, a personal letter and email.
Personal email.
Okay, so it's about generating content, thinking about ideas. Okay, so we can look at that for the lesson objective.
Sure.
Okay, so basically, it's a situational writing task where your aunt and uncle and 13-year-old cousin from Australia will be visiting Singapore. So you're supposed to recommend some concerts or theatre productions for them. Okay, so they will take a look at all these brochures in order to make the recommendation, right? Okay.
To extract information and to develop their content ideas from there.
So we are looking at this task fulfillment, what this show is about and why it will interest the whole family. Okay, so let's look at the brochures that we have.
So I think maybe now we can just think aloud just for a second. Before writing, before getting our students to even write in the first place, are we not providing them with input through these brochures and then they have to process a lot of things in terms of their visuals? Would our objective of writing be rushed in a sense? Would it be
because it's not exactly writing yet, right?
Yeah, there is a step of reading before the actual writing. So in this case, because that's clearly what we are doing ourselves.
So actually, to even do this situational writing task, they have to go through reading. Before they can even start writing.
Correct. Reading and perhaps even extracting the information, knowing what's relevant or not to the task, before even structuring all that together in a writing task. I realised, but perhaps these are the steps that they need to take before
they even start doing the writing
in the first place.
Okay. So then we have to think about how our lesson objective is no longer writing and representing.
Yeah, that's right. But something perhaps related to reading and viewing. Actually.
Reading and viewing.
Because it's a constant interplay of text and images. Yeah, maybe
lesson objective.
Let's take a look at the syllabus. Maybe LO2 under the SSAB of establishing and regulating reading and viewing goals.
Okay.
So this might be a sensible, first step for them, because once they have goals in mind, then they can read more accurately.
So we're going to tell the kids these goals explicitly, or
we could elicit responses from them and jointly construct these goals, which also then goes back to the content that we were looking at. Would it actually be appropriate in the first place?
Is it easy for them to understand this content? I'm looking at this one, War Horse, right? I think it might be a bit too difficult for the students because they have to understand about World War I, and not only that, they have to think about how this would interest his or her aunt,
or
uncle, or
and
even the
cousin,
cousin,
right?
exactly. For our Sec 1s, we do have a mixture of students with different levels of readiness in the classroom.
That's right. I'm on one called Grandmother Tongue. So it's a play about perhaps dialect and language barriers and all. And I noticed the language can be a tad complex, spending decades in linguistic and cultural exile. I'm not sure Sec 1 students would be ready for, perhaps some.
Perhaps some of them are ready. And I don't think it makes sense for us to give them the meaning of all these phrases, right? Because
in that
we're
sense,
doing
we are doing the learning
for
for
them.
Let's also find and curate content that is a bit more accessible for our students,
more accessible
more matching perhaps to their interests even, and then work from there. What do we envision the resource to look like?
We can look at maybe specific rides.
Perhaps in the context of Universal Studios Singapore. Okay.
Then we can look at maybe some online reviews, and then you have to edit it and adapt it, right, to something that your kids will be able to handle, right?
Definitely. So presenting it perhaps in like a infographic or a web page kind of a format. So it's still authentic, like the task is respectful to their learning needs also.
Okay.
How many versions do you think we should? 3, 4?
I don't think that 3 or 4 versions. Don't think that that's really realistic. Maybe let's look at just one different version.
One adapted version from another.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can differentiate the content in this case to that particular objective of establishing reading goals in the first place and regulating that process. I envision incorporating flexible grouping into my class so that there are some groups that are perhaps more homogeneous in terms of student readiness, and other groups that are maybe a bit more mixed, more heterogeneous, so that there's richer sharing in all directions. So after they've read and after they've established their reading goals and regulated it, what is their logical next step in terms of our own teaching for a personal email?
Okay, so basically they have to read and understand and then make links, right? So to this question, why would it interest the whole family? Okay, so at this point, because you're working in groups, the kids can share their own personal experiences.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe in a group of 4 or 5,
right.
right? 2 of them have been to USS.
Yeah.
They have taken the rides before, or they've seen videos or read things about the different rides, right? They can share about this, right? And then it helps the kids who don't know, who have never been to
never
USS,
been there,
correct, and help them to
some
understand.
idea.
So I think working in groups is very, very beneficial for the kids.
I agree.
Right?
And I really like the part about including your personal experiences, because some of our students actually have been there before, and their personal experience is valuable in terms of making a recommendation to their cousins who presumably have similar interests.
Correct.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could look through the SSAB. Which other perhaps lesson objective could we establish? So we talked about personal experience. So there is one here on making
Text
to self connections by linking personal experiences and events represented in a text to perhaps a certain task that we set out for them to do. I think this would be perfect for what we are trying to achieve.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. Yeah, because they have to read about the different rights, and then they can share their own experiences, right? And in that sharing itself, right, you're actually answering the task
in order to make that recommendation. I think the nice part about this is that everyone has something in it for them. So even if I haven't been to Universal Studios, I at least can base my information on the infographic
text,
or the text that is given. And those who have perhaps can share their own personal experiences.
Correct.
And it will make for very rich sharing in the group.
Yeah,
And
I'm hoping to get things like, for example, you know, when I was queuing for the ride, I was so excited, you know, and then how I felt after the ride.
Correct.
All these are not it will not be in the text. Yeah, so I think it'll be good sharing and will help them with the writing as well.
Agreed. I think just off the top of my head, I envision the lesson to be they'll be in their groups, and I'll go around to different groups to support them, to clarify anything that they're unsure of, or if they need repetitions or clarifications on their goals, and then to also support them integrating their personal experiences and
the actual writing
task in line with what they have read as well. So to marry all these goals together to achieve the objective of the task.
Okay. Maybe I can also recommend when you're walking around, right, it's also good to keep a lookout for kids who are really on track. You know, they know what they're supposed to be doing. Then at the end of the lesson, right, you can actually show these samples to the whole class for them to see like how would a successful reading process look like.
I think that's excellent for structuring the consolidation for the lesson.
Correct.
I think I will just do that very practically by showing their work on the visualizer and perhaps inviting comments from the students on what's good and what can be improved.
Correct.
And then from there we can end off the lesson with a discussion, tying it back to the objectives on the reading goals and the making text to self connections, how well that was achieved for the lesson. Okay. Sure, okay, we've got work to do, so we'll plan for that. And I think that's a step in the right direction we can take.